That's it. 3, 2, and we're live. Hello again. So I'm Juliet. Thank you for joining the 10 o'clock session of the Balanced Retreat today. I've got Ryan with me here today. Ryan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Ryan. I'm a chiropractor in Wishaw. I work for Maple Clinics. I moved to Scotland around 2.5 years ago. Originally from Dorset, which is the south of England. Lived there, studied a master's in chiropractor, then moved up there and started working ever since. That's just a bit about me.
Excellent, thank you. And Ryan helped me a lot when my pelvis was way out of alignment during my pregnancy with my youngest child. So it's been a massive support to me over the past couple of years. So thank you for that and for coming in to do the session today. I'm excited for your slot. So I'll hand over to you, and if anyone's got any questions, they can pop them in the live and I can see them potentially as we go, but I'll hand over to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so just starting a timer there so I keep on track. So I'm a chiropractor, so we're most well known for helping people with spinal problems, so back pain, neck pain, headaches, that sort of thing. But what's interesting is the topic of today is balance, and we often look for balance in somebody's life when they come into our office because they may have a problem with their back, but often there's other problems with their health as well. And for us to get the best results with their back problem, we have to analyze their life and see if there are other areas that they can improve in. So to start with, balance itself, it probably means something different to everyone, but from a biological or a physiological standpoint, it might refer to something called homeostasis. Now, you might have heard of homeostasis before. It's a biological term, and it refers to the tendency to remain in equilibrium. So it's the condition needed for all cells to function optimally, and it's the way that an organism self-regulates. So us as human beings, we're an organism. We are made up of lots of individual cells, all working together to allow us to function properly. We are self-regulating, self-healing. Now, what that means is that we don't need to control certain functions of our body. So our heart's beating, we're breathing, all these functions, we're digesting our food, all of these functions are happening without our conscious control. It's just happening by default. So if you were to cut your arm, for example, it would bleed and then a scab would form and it would heal up and you get a scar, and that would just happen. You don't need to control that yourselves. The term, and it's homeostasis, which allows that to happen properly. So the term, or humans are often referred to as machines, but I don't agree with that completely, because machines are often built and then they work and then they gradually break down as time goes on. But the human body is much better than that, because it's made up of individual parts, but they all work together, and that creates something a lot better than the individual parts alone. So the need for homeostasis is there for the organism. The most simple way to explain homeostasis and how that body always strives to be in the middle is by using body temperature. Now, the body's optimal temperature is 37 degrees, and it needs that to function at its best. Now, if you were to go outside and it's freezing cold, your internal body temperature would start to drop, but your body has systems in place to stop that from happening. So the first thing it would do is constrict the blood vessels in the arms and the feet so that the blood flow would be centered around the vital organs to keep you alive. And that's homeostasis in action. It's your body has deviated from what is normal or central, and then the body's created all these physiological processes to bring you back into balance. Now, the same thing would happen if you went into a sauna or somewhere very hot. Your body would go out of balance, but then physiological processes would happen in the body to then bring you back to that center. So if I was in a hot environment I would then suddenly start sweating, perspiring, which would cool my body down and bring me back to that perfect 37 degrees. And that idea of homeostasis happening all the time. It doesn't let up. So it's this condition that's needed for optimal health and well-being, but sometimes we may forget that. So we consider anything that causes the body to shift out of that central position as a stressor. Now, we like the term stress, and it probably means something different to everyone else, but a stress or a stressor is anything that causes a shift from that so-called central point, and they can come in two forms. It can either be because of a toxicity or a deficiency, but that creates a shift from that central point of your body. So in chiropractic, we break it down into three main areas. We break it down into physical stress, chemical stress, and emotional stress. And I'm just going to run through a few key points in each of those relating to health and well-being. So physical stress might be too much or too little physical activity. Another one might be poor postures, and another one might be traumas, whether that's car crashes, falls, big or small. And they all cause some sort of stress to the body, that the body will have to shift away from that central point and then find a way to bring itself back into balance. Next one, chemical. So with chemical, we're talking the chemistry of the body. So foods, good, bad, if they're covered in toxins. Then think about air quality, smoking, and then think about drinking, water quality. All of those chemical stresses for the body to respond and adapt to. It's changing the body in some way, and it has to try and find that central point, get balance from it. And then final one, emotional stress. So we're talking about financial problems, relationships, work, family. Some of that emotional stress could be too much, or you could have too little. So too little social interaction can be a stress for the body. Too much could also be a stress for you as well in certain situations. So when you're looking at your overall health, it's important to break it down into those three main areas so that you can see if you're toxic in certain areas or deficient in certain areas. And that's not saying that stress itself is bad. It's just that too much stress over a long period of time can start to affect the optimal function of the body. So there are certain things you can do to create more resilience in your body, and I'll go over those, a few tips at the end. But our bodies do need a small amount of stress to respond, adapt, and get stronger. So for example, weight training, when you go to the gym, when you do it in just the right amount, it's a small amount of stress because you're stressing the muscle, you're putting a load in that creates little micro tears, and then the body's natural response is to repair those, heal them up so that they're stronger. So the next time you lift the weight, you're better able to do it. But if we then take that and do too much, say we lift too much and we don't allow enough rest time, we stress the body, we don't allow enough period of time, or we don't allow good conditions for the body to heal and repair. So the next time we go and lift the weight or do a session in the gym, our body's weakened. So if you do too much stress over a prolonged period of time, it could weaken the body and create problems. Or if we do small amounts, allow enough rest and recovery, we can actually strengthen the body. And that's an example of something physical that you can do. So my first bit of advice for anyone at home who's struggling with any sort of problems is to just divide their area into those divide their life into those three areas: physical, chemical, and emotional. And then start making some changes so that you're either reducing it if you're doing too much. So say, for example, you're in this current situation, a lot of people are probably working from home and sitting in bad postures for longer period of times. So if you look at that, think, okay, I'm sitting for too long, maybe I can sit less in a better posture, and that will take stress off my body. Alternatively, if you want to improve on that, take it to the next level, you could maybe add some exercise in. I'll go over a quick, easy way to get exercise in at home just towards the end. Chemical, for example, have a look at what you're taking in. So analyze your foods. I'm not going to go too much into the nutrition, but if you're having too much bad foods and not enough good foods, there's an imbalance, and you want to try and level that out. And then the same with emotional. You want to look at your current situation and think, am I, let's say for example, social interaction, am I getting too little or am I getting too much? Is there too much emotional stress, or is there too little of the good stuff that we need? So my advice is for anyone struggling with any sort of problems is to break down those areas and really start looking, because sometimes we don't often think there's a problem, but when you look a bit deeper into your daily habits and the environment around you, you can find that there are small bits of stress that are starting to add up to create a bigger problem. So some very quick and easy things you can actually do to start creating resilience or become more resistant to this stress. I'll do, for example, I'll start with physical. Okay, so exercise itself is always beneficial to the body. However, too much can start to weaken you down. So one form of exercise that can really help to make the body more resilient is high intensity intervals. And apart from being a chiropractor, I also run a program called Fit 545, and what that is, it's a wellness program, and we use the high intensity interval trainings as the primary form of exercise. The reason is because there's a lot of health benefits to it, and it's very easy to do. You only need to do, say, in a week, so in a 7-day period, doing 3 sessions of maximum 20 minutes is all that you need to create a small amount of stress, a shock to the system that creates a really good physiological response that then creates some resilience in your system. So all you need to do is take 5 different exercises. They can be body weight exercise. You don't have to use weights, and all you're going to do is you're going to work intensely for a period and then have a rest, and you're just going to repeat that over and over again for around 15 to 20 minutes. That's going to be really beneficial when you're doing high intensity intervals. What it's doing is it's creating short-term stress, which is perfectly fine for the body to have. But what it does is it shocks the body, and then when you stop exercising, your body manages to find that reset button or that central equilibrium a lot easier. So the common problem today is because we're constantly exposed to micro stresses, our body is in a stressed response. And the stress response is very interesting because it used to be, or it still is, it's a perfectly normal response for the body. And a good analogy, for example, is the flight or fight response. Now, if I was in a room and a lion came in, I would be quite alert, and that's the stress response kicking in. You're getting some adrenaline pumped into the system, some cortisol. That's creating a certain response by the body. In particular, eyes dilate, blood goes to the muscles, you're primed to run or fight this lion. But once the lion disappears, you get away or you beat it up, your body should then find that central point of balance. But the trouble is, when in day-to-day life, the stress is really high and we never actually find that reset. So things like high intensity intervals use that excess energy that's being created from the stressful situations and just allows our body to calm down. And once you're out of that stress response, that's when things like healing, digestion, relaxation, all of that starts to occur. But it's very hard for that to happen when we're constantly on high alert, always looking out for those lions. But those lions aren't lions in our day-to-day life. They're the physical, chemical, and emotional stress that I discussed earlier. So financial worries, the relationship problems, the constant exposure to air pollution, or toxic foods, or the lack of exercise that we're getting. So that's very important. The next one, another simple way you can create some resilience in the body, and it's something I've just started doing again, is cold showers. That, like I say, the whole concept of homeostasis, I use the example of cold and hot and how your body responds. Again, cold showers can be a form of short-term stress that creates a big physiological response, but once you get out of the cold shower and your body starts to warm back up, you're finding that reset and you're coming back to that central point of balance. And that's super important. Okay, so that's another way you might be able to get your body to start operating more efficiently and more resiliently. Next one, so I think there's going to be some more people talking about this later. It's meditation. Again, it relies on that, the concept of bringing the body back down to a relaxed response, or a rest digest response, because day-to-day life is very stressful. We can take some time just to ourselves to allow your body to calm down, reset. That's also going to help the body to become more resilient. So in terms of things that I wanted to talk about, I'm pretty much there. The main take-homes from today is that our body is self-healing, self-regulating, and you really just need to do things to help that happen. It's very difficult for it to do that if we're overloaded with certain stresses in our life. So start analyzing, having a look, and seeing where you can make improvements.
That's amazing. Thanks very much, Ryan. I really resonate with a lot of what you were saying. I'd asked anyone if they had any questions while you were speaking to put them in the comments, but no one has any questions. So, oh, Joanne is asking, what's the name of the exercise program that you run?
Fit 545.
We can maybe pop the link in the comments. You've got an amazing Instagram.
Yes, Instagram.
So we'll pop Ryan's links in the comments. He's got a great Instagram page. He's always doing exercise videos and sharing information, which is great. And that runs out of Wishaw. I know some people who've done the exercise program with you as well with excellent results. So we'll share that, or you can share it now that you're in the group, into the comments. I had left a post while you were speaking about the cold showers, about the Wim Hof method. Yeah. So someone's just saying Wim Hof's amazing. I actually signed up for the course this week.
Yeah, I did a real good course over in Edinburgh. It was Wim Hof breathing with Kundalini yoga.
I've seen it advertised. It's always sold out so early on, isn't it?
Yeah, so it was amazing. But like, I used to cold shower a lot I used to swim in the sea when I was in Bournemouth, because I lived right there. Whereas now I'm up here, there's not the sea I can jump into.
Yeah.
But cold showers, the feeling you get after you jump out is insane.
Yeah, and a lot of the most successful leaders in the world absolutely swear by it to help their body, reset and rebalance. And there's a series on Netflix just now called The Goop Lab. I'm not sure if you've seen that.
There is an episode on there about the chiropractic as well. That's real good.
That's right. I've watched all of it. I love it. I've been recommending it to everyone. So for anyone watching, feel free to check out Ryan's links in the comments and the Goop Lab. It's great. I'm just looking to see if there's any more comments. Everyone's saying thank you for the information. So I don't think there's any more questions. But thanks very much for joining today. It was really good. And I think it was excellent to set up the day, you know, in that, you know, body resetting and reaching homeostasis, because everything that everyone's going to share will build on that from today onwards. So it's been really good.
Perfect.
Okay, thanks guys. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.